right. Well, welcome to Bible study today, everybody. Starting this week, I actually have to do work in service because I have to actually read the lesson now. That is the longer gospel lesson now versus previously. The first lesson was always the longest, so I'm excited about that. So our signs for this week: kindness reaches wounds that only compassion can heal. A church is a gift from God, assembly required. There is no right way to do a wrong thing. No right way to do a wrong thing. Let today's tears water the seeds of tomorrow's happiness. Those who have tact have less to retract. It pays to raise your praise. It pays to raise your praise. And a clean conscience makes a soft pillow. All right, here. So let's go around the room. Since everybody's here today, we'll see how everybody's doing. So who would like to start today on good things and bad things? Since Sherry's looking at me, I'll start with Sherry.
Did you see the grimace on my face?
Don't make eye contact.
No, I think yesterday I was just enlightened. The grief group that I used to visit at the funeral home, we decided once a month we'd all meet for coffee. And it was fun. We really had a good time, and I was just all day. So I just felt blessed all day yesterday.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
no bad things yesterday.
Good. Mr. Dan.
You mentioned something about bumping into somebody and just talking with them.
Yeah.
And I was on my way up to Anna Ray's because Elsie was not feeling good, so they couldn't go to work. So I went up there to watch her through the day. So I went up on
You went Monday night.
Went
because
Monday
you
night.
had to be there all day Tuesday.
and I was there all day Tuesday. Well, on my way up, I just happened to stop at a thrift place because I was looking for something for the studio. And while I was there, I thought, I'm going to go back and look at some records. Because last time I was there and I found a nice digest album, and it was kind of cool, I thought. And you get for $15, you get 10 records. So I went back there to see if they had one, and there was this lady who was kind of looking at it, and we just started a little conversation.
Yeah.
And we both were kind of smiling and talking about, and I mentioned about going up to watch Elsie, and it was just
Pleasant.
just talk to somebody out of the clear, and she
Awesome.
was looking at records too. So, just
Cool.
I got nothing other than after he was there, it was good all day, and Anna
oh, it
Ray.
was good that I was gone. What?
Elsie was good
Oh.
all day, and she texted last night at 11:30. She was running 104 fever.
Yeah, so I'm heading up tonight
He's
after
gonna go
the
again.
bells and stay tomorrow because they have something going on tomorrow afternoon for their anniversary. And they were
Has she
gonna
got
go to a play.
RSV?
Was it?
She's just running. 7 kids in their daycare are out with fevers.
Yeah.
So
One gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like wildfire. I don't know if any of you are doing the Prophets and Promises devotions. If you are, I apologize because there's something that just struck me funny. The author is talking about the fact that in Advent we talk about John the Baptist preparing the way for Jesus. And he says, he's talking about somebody that would spend every Advent, or he would spend every Advent wondering with a smile why John wasn't part of every outdoor nativity set, especially since the baptizer is a good candidate to be a big, loud, slightly scary, lit-up figure that startles passersby. That just struck me so funny. I wanted to share that.
John.
Big blow up John the Baptist.
It's an untapped market. We should start making them.
I do have something. Speaking of outdoor nativity, my sister called and said her little 6-year-old grandson wanted to go out, and she had her nativity set out, so he was going to go play football in Israel. She said, I didn't tell him it was Judea. I just let him be.
Interesting. I can't think of any negative things. And the one thing that struck me during our BSF lecture this week was how much Job is a foreshadowing of Christ. And I guess I never really gave that much thought. And when that idea came up from the gentleman giving the lecture, there's the correlation. Jesus himself said, like, not Job, Jonah.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Jonah in the whale. Like Jonah, 3 days and 3 nights
Right.
in the earth. But Jonah was responsible for not only saving the lives of the people on the boat
Mhm.
by being willing to sacrifice his own life, throw me overboard,
Hmm.
but they were converted because they saw the power of the Lord God after they had prayed to their own gods for the storm to stop and whatnot. And Jonah says, no, it's my fault. It's my God that's causing this. So there's some very powerful foreshadowing of Christ in that story.
Me, I'm just plain thankful to be here.
We're thankful you're here too.
Yeah.
We are too.
Many times I listen to this on YouTube. But trouble is, like, who's it telling? This is a farm truck, it's 2006, it's nothing new, nothing special. I can't Bluetooth it through my radio,
Oh.
so it only goes so loud on my phone. So, and I get so sick and tired of listening to the music, so then I'll listen to Billy Graham or this,
Yeah.
I'll listen to some of your older sermons.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, so.
So you want me? So I can digitally increase the volume a little bit more. Right now, I try to do it about 200 times. Maybe I'll go up to 300 times
Yeah.
and see if
Or
that
if
helps.
you just playing by a different truck too.
Oh.
That is give you a reason to buy your truck.
But no, I'm very thankful to be here, very thankful.
Mr. Gary.
No, last hour was getting better,
Good. Good. I'm happy to hear that.
'cause you saw me.
Yes, I saw you using it. That's good.
You saw me one episode
Mhm.
like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, Janine.
Well, you told us to talk to somebody that we didn't know, so I sat at McDonald's and I saw this woman over there. Get over there, Janine, talk to her. She was a nice looking 50-year-old and she was dressed real nice, and I said, I'd like to talk to you. Oh, good. She said, that's fine, I've been alone, and so tell me about yourself. Well, I'm a cat and dog rescuer.
Mm.
She said, I rescue all the cats I can find, and then I find people that will pay for the vet or pay for shelter or take these cats. Sometimes I take dogs, but not very often. I've got a big shed that houses them until I can do what I have to do. But she said, I've got a lot of people that are happy to pay for the vet.
Mhm.
And she had an interesting story. She does that to dogs occasionally.
Okay.
She had a very interesting story. I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah.
And I'm not a cat person, but she was most interesting.
Where was
Awesome.
she from?
Cumberland, I believe.
Oh,
That was nice that she was at the McDonald's when you
Yeah.
came to see her.
Yeah, I was
Just-
very happy to talk to her. She was very interesting because it was way out of my realm entirely. That's
Awesome.
fine. That's good.
Awesome. Loretta?
Well, let's see. Friday night, Nathan called. Are you going to be home tomorrow? I said, yeah, I think so. Well, I'm going to come and see you, and my mom's coming too. So him and Kathy came at noon. And then we're going to McDonald's, or not McDonald's, A&W for lunch. That's where Grandpa always wanted to go. That's the only place he wanted to go. So that's where we went. And we had a real good time and talked and talked and talked. She's a cat lover, so she's telling about her cats. She has one nice cat and one is a psycho cat. If they come walking up here now, I would know them. I heard so much about them. I laughed so hard. And I didn't realize how the same her and I were. I mean, we liked the same things.
This is
We
a
just
former daughter-in-law.
Oh,
and we just had such a good time. I remember after her mother's funeral, she came into the kitchen. We were washing dishes or something. She said, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah. I don't have a mommy anymore. Will you be my mother?" And I just,
Oh.
of course, I'll be
She
your
was
mother.
always
You let me know
full
what
of fun,
you want.
yeah.
Mhm.
So thanks for having us do this, because I got to see all these beautiful memories that I forgot, and it was just a wonderful time. She wanted a hug, so she got one of my hugs. And
You're a good hugger.
Oh, one other thing too. I got a chance to meet your
Very
wife
nice.
Sunday.
so
Oh,
she
good.
said, we
Yeah.
gotta do this more often.
I immediately forgot her name.
Britta, just like the water filter.
That's what she told me, just like the water filter. And then she had a story about you two were in Target, and there's water filters on sale. And it's Britta. You put her up against it. Took a
Picture, exactly. She's on sale, only 50% off.
That's a bargain.
Is it?
But there was no snake on the background.
No, no.
Because we went down to Nelson, Wisconsin, and she stood by the sign for the town to take a picture, and there's a snake crawling along.
How'd that go, Jean?
I didn't know about it till I got back in the truck.
Oh.
Otherwise, I would have not been there for the picture.
Don was smart.
I was in my 20s. I got in trouble for that one. Found a car snake and put it in the secretary's
Yeah,
desk.
that would not
Oh.
be good. But she
I
had, that
got
was
in
nice.
trouble for that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, but you got
Repent
it.
ye!
Yes.
Repent ye!
Miss Louise.
I was in my 20s.
I have
when I
nothing,
did
except I've been babysitting a pug all week. So I came
Stanley.
home last night, so now he's gone, but he's a lazy dog. Well, Sunday I went to church, and then I came back home after coffee at 10:30, and then I let him outside, woke him up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let him outside. He hadn't been up yet. The last couple of days it was 11:30. So, but this morning, now Troy got him up earlier. So I don't know how he liked that, but he just lays and snores and snores. So he's a pretty easy dog to take care of. So that's all I've talked to this week.
Stanley.
Stanley the big pug.
Yeah.
And I like my sweater. I got this as a gift, so
Yeah.
I thought I'd wear it today for you guys. You can. They got it because of the glasses on the
Yeah, I saw
reindeer.
that
So
right away. It looked like you.
Oh, I've got a red nose at home for
see, there you go. I can wear that.
There you go.
Little antlers. I could just be. She'd go that for Cernerson Sunday. So, well, good. I'm glad everybody's doing well, and thank you guys for sharing. So this week we are starting to actually be in the New Testament now. So we're going to start with the gospel lesson. So we'll be in the book of Matthew. So I'm assuming that's what we're going to be in for the lectionary this year, the narrative. I'm assuming we're going to be in Matthew. So a couple things about Matthew that.
Luke.
Oh, we're going to be in Luke.
We'll go Luke a couple times and then back to Matthew.
Okay. I know a lot of times they like to stick us in Matthew. So
Christmas, it's a Luke story.
yeah.
This is,
So
this Sunday,
if you
it's
get
Matthew story.
bored and you want to read a short commentary on the book of Matthew, let me know. I'll let you borrow this. I actually do smaller books too.
That's all in Matthew.
So that's just all in Matthew. Yeah, I have and I got 3 other commentaries that are a lot shorter than that one. So, but I always like this one. To me, the nice thing about this one is it translates the text. He translates the text, and he tells you why he picks certain words and what certain words mean. So talking about, and today he actually compares some stuff in the Hebrew and the Greek, and then I'll talk to you about a little bit. So that's why I like this one, and it's really a good reference book. And like I said, they're very thorough, which is why I tend to buy these. So if there's a book of the Bible, I tend to have one of these. They're not cheap either. So this is like $70. So so it's well worth it though. And like I said, I've got a bunch of different ones. I also have some on Kindle that are a little bit more inexpensive. So so some important things to think about today as we jump into the text. So I'm going to go with a different commentary right now, but Matthew's gospel is commonly dated to 85 of the first century, perhaps in the city of Antioch in Syria. The community which gives us this gospel lived as subjects of the oppressive Roman Empire. Just 15 or so years prior to the writing, Rome had brutally defeated a Jewish revolt in Israel, destroying Jerusalem in the process. Followers of Jesus in Antioch and anywhere nearby would have been aware of and impacted by that horror. As Jewish leaders worked to hold Judaism together in the aftermath of this tragedy, Jewish Christian followers apparently found themselves having to choose between their faith in Jesus as God's Messiah and their home in the synagogue. So why was the destruction of Jerusalem such a big deal for the Jewish people? Why do you think?
Well, that was
Yes.
a,
Destruction of the temple.
Yeah.
And
So,
that's
yeah.
where God was for them.
And that's where
Yeah.
God was. So suddenly God is gone. The physical building where God was housed is gone now. And the people, the Jewish folks, are figuring out, well, what does that mean? This is where we've always had God, because they've had God in the tabernacle, they've got God in the temple now, and then all of a sudden God's gone. So what happens next? What happens when you're religious? So it'd be sort of like if suddenly Gethsemane was just wiped off the map. How do we do church? You know? I mean, we'd find a way, but for them, they're very ritualistic. And very much, this was the center, the synagogue was just not the center of their religious life, but it was the center of their life. And now it's gone. And now, they're trying to figure out what's going to happen next. So into that situation is the Gospel of Matthew was written. So, and like I said, you'll see as we read through the Gospel of Matthew 2, you'll see that tension between the Jewish Christians and the Jews. And it's a tension on how we're going to happen, how things are going to happen. What direction are we going to go to? Are we going to follow Jesus? Or are we going to do rabbinic Judaism? You already know the answer to this. And this is the reason why you have Christians and why you have rabbinic Judaism. And so that's sort of the struggle with right now as this group is, as this gospel is being laid down. This is the struggle that these folks are having. And so just a reminder as well, too, it is not good when this is written. It is horrible times. People, you're being oppressed for religious reasons. So you're getting repressed by the government and also where you go to worship. So they are, so the message, so the outward message to them is you don't matter, and they're very much thought people don't think of kindly of them, and so this is the situation that this gospel is written into. And so when we read this first part of the text, I want you to take that into consideration as we're reading this text again. How does it sound based on what's happening? So I'm just going to have one person read the whole thing, so it's only 7 verses.
Now the birth of Jesus Christ was as follows. When his mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph, before they came together, she was found to be with child by the Holy Spirit. And Joseph, her husband, being a righteous man and not wanting to disgrace her, planned to send her away secretly. But when he had considered this, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, For the child who has been conceived in her is of the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. Now all this took place to fulfill what was spoken by the Lord through the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall be with child and shall bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which translated means God with us. And Joseph awoke from his sleep and did as the angel of the Lord commanded him, and took Mary as his wife, but kept her a virgin until she gave birth to a son, and he called his name Jesus.
All right. So I think we've heard this text time before. There's so what do you find interesting about this text, or what do you have questions about in terms of this text?
I wonder if somebody came to me in the night, I would think I had a dream, wouldn't you? Would I believe that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting too. Yeah.
Say, boy, did I have a dream last night.
Which chapter?
Matthew chapter 1.
And so the other thing too is, it's
Verse
interesting
18.
that Matthew doesn't recall a certain other Joseph who had a dream. Who else had a dream? We've studied them, I think, this year. They had a play.
Yeah,
Joseph, yeah.
Technicolor
Oh.
coat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have that sort of connection, but Matthew doesn't bring that up as well too, which I find interesting. But notice, so the angel, especially, so the folks that are going to be reading this text are going to be folks who are well versed in what?
The Old
Old
Testament.
Testament.
The Old Testament. So the interesting thing is, so how does God talk to Joseph? Through a dream, and who's the messenger?
Angel.
The angel. So this is pretty common for the Old Testament. You have something that God wants to say, God says it through an angel. So this is falling in. So people who are reading this text are like, okay, totally understand this. This is what we're used to doing. This is what we're used to seeing, is an angel talking to us. So everything's fallen into place. And also, as you look at the words that, you always have to look when you read the Gospels. They use certain language. And how does the angel refer to Joseph? Look at your text. Look at your text. How does how is the angel referred to Joseph? Joseph,
Son of David.
son of David. Okay, so why does the angel say that?
Because of the genealogy, Jesus comes from the line of King David.
Absolutely.
He's not just someone they picked off of the street. He's
Absolutely.
the
So-
right one.
Exactly. So you see Matthew's building a case for Jesus. So Matthew talks about, so I think previously to this we have the lineage of Joseph. And so you have the angel talking to him. Again, you're seeing this in Old Testament times. You're having that God's working. God sent an angel. Okay, we totally get that. Son of David. Okay, we have that connection back to the kingdom. So son of David, we knew he's a great king. Especially, as we think of where they're at right now, how are they feeling? They're feeling bad right now. So the angel gives them that spark of hope by saying, Son of David, because that was the heyday. That was the wonderful time. That was, when everything was firing all cylinders. So this is why the angel does this and reminds them of that. So what else about this text do you find interesting?
I have a note from a former study that brings up the point that they expected a military leader to come in and conquer the Romans.
Yep.
But it says in verse 21, he shall save his people from their sins. That wasn't what they were looking for in a Messiah.
Correct. Correct. Yep. Yeah, it's a lot different than what they expect. as God does all the time. God always gives us stuff that we don't expect. What else about the text do you find interesting, or
How good Joseph was to Mary, and not making it a story that people would gossip about and
right?
quiet
Absolutely.
and then
It wasn't just gonna be gossip, because she was, by law, she was to be stoned.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So I think that's a good one as well too. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Why do we call Jesus Jesus and not Emmanuel?
The angel told him to name him Jesus, and that's what we've done.
Yeah, could be.
And why do we?
Yeah. So why? Because so actually the prophet said. So the prophet that Matt. So this is one thing you got to know about Matthew, and the one thing you know about how they quote Bible prophecies. Is it a one-to-one relationship? So what they say in the Old Testament, does Matthew do a one-to-one with that? No. Matthew does not do a one-to-one relationship. So like say, look, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel. That text comes out of Isaiah. And because then what we could do to our Jewish brothers and sisters say, well, hey, this came out of Isaiah. This is what this means. And they'll say, oh, no. That's not what that means. This is a totally different case. This is about a time and place that was supposed to take place immediately. That when Isaiah was talking about this event was going to happen immediately. And if you look at the Hebrew word, they don't use the word for virgin.
Young woman.
Yes, young woman. So this is the interesting thing. So I'll read this a little bit out of here because I found this interesting last night. And so this will be a little bit of a segue. But if this is what he meant, it's remarkable that Isaiah did not use the normal Hebrew word for woman or wife, Aisha, which would be expected of a childbirth within marriage. The word that is actually used is Alma, which occurs very rarely in the Old Testament, which is interesting. While it's clear from some of these Old Testament contexts that Alma is sexually mature, the word is not used elsewhere of a married woman. The person referred to as Alma in Genesis 24:43 has been specifically described as a virgin in verse 16. Isaiah's choice of this unusual word in connection with childbirth therefore draws attention. It does not explicitly mean virgin, but it suggests something other than a normal childbirth within marriage. It was presumably on this basis that the Septuagint translated it to be virgin. Matthew is following the Septuagint, but the Hebrew underlying it is sufficiently unusual to suggest that this is not an arbitrary translation. So what this is basically saying is that it's a very interesting word. It's a word not often used. And so when you hear that in the Bible, a word not often used, there's a reason why they do that. Because otherwise, they use a lot of fairly obvious words. Either when you're reading the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament, or in the Hebrew. They're very particular about the words that they use. And so something was meant to happen with this text. And so this is the reason why Matthew pulls it out. It's because he says, I'm reading the Septuagint. There's something different about this type of, something is speaking to Matthew through this. And so that's why he tags that verse and says, this is what fulfills the prophecies, because something special is happening. And we see that with Mary having Jesus. Something special is happening. And so that's why he ties that text together. So I thought that was interesting. So what do you all think about that? Because again, that's just somebody's opinion. It's not a whole card. You know, whenever I read these commentaries, they're a commentary, meaning they're not necessarily, you could say that that's a bunch of bunk, you know. But it's interesting to hear from that perspective that that word for virgin is a very special word. It's not an ordinary word, it's not a common word. But when that prophecy was written, it was really intentionally made to show some speciality with that. And speaking of names, I'm going to give you one more that I thought was interesting. So we talked about Jesus. So the Hebrew is Yahshua is normally taken to mean Yahweh is salvation, so that the interpretation in terms of saving from sin derives from the popular Hebrew understanding of the name. The similarity the name to the Hebrew verb Yosha, he will save, may have helped with Matthew's formulation of the meaning of the name in a future verb. He will save. But whereas Von, the Old Testament name spoke of God as the Savior. So it's interesting, too, the way that Matthew's taking, sort of repurposing that name. So instead of God saves, he will save.
Your question about why do we call him Jesus and not Emmanuel?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that. If I had an angel tell me that you're going to call him Jesus, would I listen to the angel or would I go with a 200-year, 300-year-old book? I think the experience would overwhelm the Old Testament reading.
Yeah. But it's something to think about, you know. You will call him Emmanuel, God is with us. And there's another reason. So like I said, when Matthew writes this stuff, he's just not arbitrary. Hey, you know, it's a great sentence I'm writing here, you know. Oh, this sounds really good there. This book that Matthew puts together is very intentional. It's a very intentional writing. So we start off the text with Emmanuel, God is with us. How do we end the book of Matthew?
Gold.
I will be with you to the end of the age. So at the front of the book, you hear, God is with us. You hear, and you see that throughout the whole book. And at the end of the book, one of the last things that Jesus say, I will be with you to the end of the age. So you have that tie through. So again, this book is not just some guy going, hey, these are some great stories of Jesus. I'll just write them down. And everything's been put together on purpose. It's been put together intentional. So I want you, as we read this Matthew text, or any of the Gospels, I want you to see, what are they trying to get at with you, with this text? Because it's not just by accident. They pick the stories they put in there for a reason. They write the words they do for a reason. Each word that they write in there has a purpose for us to look at and to think about. So I want you to think about that as we go through the text. For today, the thing I'm going to ask you to think about, since this text is tied with God is with us, what does that mean for you? What does it mean for you when you say God is with us? What does that look like?
No, he's with us wherever we are, like in the rocks, watching the water splash over him.
Absolutely.
I'm just reading the last verse here.
Yeah.
And it says, I am with you always, even until the end of the world.
Absolutely.
Always.
It's a great comfort.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes, it is.
And I don't think we always remember that God is with us. And I think that's the part that we need to really cling to. God is with us. So So that's what I'm going to leave you with today, is God is with us. So I want you to think about this. You did all great job with your homework for last week. So this next week, I want you to think about and talk about, how do you feel God is with you in your daily life? So keep looking. That's why I keep saying it every Sunday. You know, God is with you, besides just at this place here, but going forward, outside of these walls. Thank you for listening to this week's Bible study. At this time, we're going to do some prayer. And if you need some prayer about anything specific, please put something in the comment section below. You let the church office know, text me, give me an email, or just let someone around church know, and we will definitely be praying for you. Or we can also light a candle too. Take care, and we will see you next week.